this video we are going to cover what animations are going to be downloading. We're going to set up the animator and all its parameters, which will allow us to get ready to do the actual coding in the next video. So I'm just going to Mixamo and I'm just kind of looking for a character. Something that kind of feels cyberpunk-ish. I'm just looking for if you have your own model, you can use your own model with Mixamo animations. I'm just speeding up and bypassing the setting up of like models, rigs, animations, that kind of thing, just to get to the coding part, which I think most of you are here for. So I'm just kind of looking for something. I think that might work, this one here. Let's see. Okay, so my character is going to be carrying a bow. I'm thinking like it's a little bit more original than a gun. So it's going to be, she's going to be using a bow. So I'm going to download this base model. And then we'll go and get all the separate animations. You can get a locomotion pack if you want, but I'm just going to get each of the animations individually so you can kind of see where I got them and what my thinking is. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to create a new folder in here called this models, because the model is going to go in here, and I'm going to create another one for animations while I'm at it, because I'm also going to put my animations in the separate folder. So the model is going to go in here, and I'll just leave the model's name as it is. Okay, now we're going to go to animations. I'm going to look for let's just see if such a thing exists. I think that one, standing run forward, because it's got a bow in its hand. I'm just looking for anything with a kind of a bow. Okay, so we're not going to be using root motion for this controller. I feel like if I want to get kind of a Ghost Runner vibe or a where it feels fluid and feels nice, I don't want to use root motion. So I'm going to set the animation to be in place. I'm going to download this animation without skin because it just makes the file smaller. So without skin just means we don't have the actual geometry of the model, just the animations. Because we got the model with the we got the base model in its T-pose with the geometry, so we can use that for the physical model. So stand run forward. I assume there's a stand run backwards, so I'm going to do a search for that. Just type back, maybe. There we go, there it is. Also in place, because we're not using root motion, I'm going to download that one without skin. And is it strafe or side? Let's go side. No. Let's go right. There we go. There it is. So it is called right. Again, I'm turning off root motion. Download without skin. There we go. If this one's run right, then the next one is run left, I would assume. I think that might be this one here. Okay, so now we should have, you can, if you want to make it a little more complicated, you can find all 8 cardinal directions, so forward, backwards, left, right, then, you know, northeast, northwest, and the south, that kind of thing. But this first person, so I just want to use the full character for those of you who want to kind of, like Ghost Runner doesn't have a body, it's basically floating arms with a weapon, whereas Cyberpunk has a full body, so we're just kind of combining the two together. Okay, so I'm going to also look for a sliding animation. Okay, so we're going to use this one with root motion because unfortunately it doesn't give me the option, but I'll just show you how to go around it, go about doing that. Okay, so we're going to download that one. And then all I think that's left to do for the basic movement, we'll go and get attack animations and that when at the time when it's needed. Is the jump. Just trying to find a jump that doesn't look completely Because we're not going to use the jump as root motion again, we're also going to use code to drive the character's movement. So I'm looking for two types of jumps. I think standing jump and then a running jump. So that's a standing jump. So let's grab this one. Then I'm thinking a running jump. Something like this could be quite nice. So like if you're running and you jump forward versus standing still and jumping. So again, we're going to be bypassing the root motion on these model files. We're also going to be breaking them up into the different sections. When you're not animating this yourself and you're using something like Mixamo, I wouldn't recommend just using the animations as they are for when, especially for the jumping and stuff. Okay, I think that should be it for now. So I'm just going to close that. I'm going to go back to Unity. We should get two folders popping up here, our animations folder and our models folder. Just going to rename this one, just shorten this, call this Cyberpunk model. Okay, so we start by going to the rig, changing it to humanoid, create a avatar for this, you say correct. Always make sure you get no errors, like I'm getting an error here. So I'm going to go to the configure button and see what the problem is. The problem seems to be in the left leg, and I think that's because she's kind of got like a peg leg on the left. So I'm going to scroll down and see where it's missing. It's missing the foot and the toes on the left leg. So I'm going to look for the left leg. That's the right leg. There's the left leg. So it does have a foot and a toe. So I'm going to grab the toe and put it into toes. Grab the foot and put it into foot so that the avatar is correctly done. So I'm going to apply that. And I'm going to click the done button. Now all the errors are gone. So that has sorted and fixed the issues that we had. So here's the model. Looks good. Okay, so that's it for the model itself. So I'm going to bring the model in because I know this model, I've used this model in the past and it's a little bit tiny. You'll see it right there. It's just quite a short character. So I'm going to move that capsule we made originally, and I'm going to leave where it is. I'm going to move the capsule collider and remove the mesh renderer, but I'm going to move the capsule collider up first. Needs to be up, and it's this character, I don't know, we'll leave it as 2 meters tall, I think, and we'll offset this by half that. So the collider is now the feet are at the bottom of the collider. We're going to remove the mesh renderer and remove the mesh capsule filter there, just so that all we have left is a capsule collider, and the pivot or the origin of this game object is at the bottom where the feet would be. So I think I'm going to make her about 1.8 meters tall. No, wrong one there. So 1.8 meters tall, half of that is 0.9, and make it 1.8. The radius is also a little bit much, I think, for this character, but we'll see. Actually, 0.3 might be too little. Okay, so I need to scale this model up, so that's what I'm going to do now. Scale that up. Get the collider, just to kind of see how much I need to scale it up by. It's almost there, so I would say I'm going to round it off to 2.77. Okay, so if you're the kind of person like me who doesn't like to scale models up over here, I'm going to go to the model here, and I'm going to go to the model settings, and I'm going to make this 2.77. The import settings, the scale factor. So depending what program you get the model from, if you always just kind of make sure that your model is to real scale. There we go, that should do it. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to grab the model and parent it to the FPS player controller there. So now what's nice about this is going to do all the coding on the base controller so that we can just switch out the model when we need to, and we're good to go. So I'm also going to move the camera and parent the camera to the FPS player. I want to reset its location. And I'm just going to set the field of view to something like, I think 80 maybe. We'll just leave it at 60 for now. I'm going to rename this to FPS camera so that we know it's all part of the same setup. Move the camera up. For now, the camera is going to be controlled in code, but just for now, I'm going to make these gizmos not like that, so that they don't look ginormous. There we go. Okay, so that's it for now. That's what we're going to do there. We're setting up the character just for the next section. I'm also going to just quickly fix this lighting issue. It always upsets me. So I'm going to go to my lighting tab here. I'm going to go to environment. I'm going to say generate lighting, just so that there's no dark spots. There we go. Okay, one more thing left to do is create a plane for the floor. Just for the time being, just so we have something to test our controllers on. Let's rename this one to floor. I think we're good to go. So this is basically where we're starting. So we're going to do the animation stuff, get that out the way first. So in the animation section, we're going to have to go and select all the animations, go to the rig, change it to humanoid, because remember we're using humanoid for the type of import. We're going to say copy the avatar because we've already done that work. And the avatar is called Cyberpunk Model Avatar, which is the one that I created earlier on. And now that we've done this, unfortunately, until I write a script for this, we have to go and do each of these manually. So we're going to start with the easy ones. We're going to start with the slide. We're going to have to go back to the jump and tweak that. So I'm going to start at the bottom with all the loopable animations. So this is run right. I'm going to say loop on and rename this to right. I'm going to set the rotation to be correctly orientated to the original, not to the body orientation, because the hips might have a small offset, which offsets the animation itself. We're going to bypass the root motion for the up and down movement. That's set it to feet. And because we're not using any root motion here, we can also bypass the root motion for the X and the Z. And we're going to do this for all the others. So this one's going to be called left, loop, set the rotation to original, set the root transform position Y to feet. Whatever you decide it to be, they all have to be set. I set it to feet because that's where it makes sense for me. And then I'm going to bypass that. Just always kind of test it to see if it looks fine. Then I'm going to do forward. You can probably call it run forward. It's up to you what you want to call these files. They just all say Mixamo, and when I try to search for them, it gets really tricky to find the right animation that I'm looking for, and I don't want to do that. Okay, let's do back. Oops. Make it loopable, set the orientation to original, set this to feet, and set this to center of mass, which is what we've been doing for all the others. So the slide has root motion. Okay, so this is not loopable. So we're going to fix the rotation, set this to feet. So when you see it again, notice how that little icon underneath the foot stays on the floor. And because it does have root motion, we need to leave this turned on. Sometimes it doesn't update 100% straight away. There we go. That looks better. And then now the next one is the jump. So we're not going to do the landing animations or the taking off animations, because we're just in first person mode. So I'm going to use all the animations that are from when the feet leave the ground to where they land, basically, or until they're like in the air like that, and then they land. So I'm going to crop this. So let's call this one jump forward, and we're just going to crop the animation here. So it looks like we're going to be starting at about frame 3. So it's going to start at frame 3, and the end is going to be, say, frame 17. Let's just say that. Okay, so again, our orientation of the body needs to be set to original. We're going to leave that on, but set that to feet. We're going to leave that on because of the root motion it has, so we don't mess anything up. We're just not going to be using the root motion, if that makes any sense. So let's see. It's not bad. Okay, and then the last one, same thing with the jump here. We're just going to use the jump from when the feet leave the ground, which it seems like it's around about 15 or 16 to 34. Okay. So let's call this one normal jump, like that. So let's make it a 16 to, crap, I forgot what it was. Let's make it 33. 33. So 16 to 33. Make sure we set the orientation, leave everything, set that to feet. This one doesn't have any up forward movement, so I'm also going to lock that off. Okay, so there we go. We've got all our animations set up. We're going to right click here and we're going to create an animator controller, and I'm going to call this one player animator. There we go. And we're going to go to the actual model. We're going to assign this to the animator, and then I'm just going to open up the animator. So there we go. We're going to start with this. It's our base layer. I'm going to double click on base layer and just call this movement. We're going to delve into different layers. So this is going to be our base layer. This is where we're going to control all of our movement. We're going to right click and start by creating a empty blend tree. Let's rename this one to locomotion. I'm going to rename this blend over here to forward and create another float. Call this one right. So forward meaning forward of the character, right meaning right of the character. It also means right and left, and forward means forward and backwards. So it's just easier for me. Instead of X and Y, I think forward and right just makes a little more sense as far as trying to describe what is happening. Okay, let's get going. We're going to double click in here to go into the blend tree. We're going to turn this into a 2D freeform Cartesian. First one's going to be forward. The second one should be right. And now we need to add 5 blend trees. One for idle. Oh, we don't have an idle animation. Need to go get one. Idle, forward, back, left, and right. So we're going to click here and say add motion field. Another way to do that is just right click on the blend tree and say add motion, add motion, add motion, add motion. There we go. So I need to quickly go and download an idle animation from Mixamo, which I forgot. So sorry about that. You'll need to go get yourself some sort of idle animation. I'll also just do a search for standing idle. Maybe we'll get one where it's idling with a bow. Standing idle. I think I'll just use this one. Seems reasonable. Sorry about my puppies. They're cray-cray, but they're very cute. So I'm downloading the idle animation. I'm going to put it into the same folder as everything else. As you can see. Wait for it to download. Let's close this. It'll show up in the list that we have here once it's updated. There we go. I'm going to change it to humanoid. I'm going to copy the avatar that we've already got created. I'm going to click apply. I'm going to go to the animation itself. This needs to be loopable. Set the rotation and just lock this off to feet and lock this off in place. There we go. So now that we have the idle animation, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to put the idle right at the top. So if there is no movement, oh jeepers, it's called Mixamo. Let's rename this idle. There we go. See, now you'll see why I renamed them, so it makes a little more sense. Okay, so that's going to be our idle animation when we're not touching anything on the controls. The second one is going to be our forward animation, and that's going to be in our y-axis, which is up and down. So I'm going to say 1 is forward. Next one's going to be backwards, and that one's going to be -1. Next one's going to be right. I always start with the positive number to the negative. So there we go. That's right. This time it's going to be 1 in the x, 0 in the y. And then the last one is left, which is going to be -1 in the x and 0 there. So now you can see we've got this. We can test it by just pushing play, moving the little red cursor. There we go. Forward, backwards, left, right. We can go diagonally. There we go. So we got our little blend tree set up. So that's it for the movement. We're going to keep it nice and simple. You could do another blend tree for crouching movements if you want. Our character is just going to be running around shooting stuff, so we don't need crouching. So the next one is we need to add a new parameter. which is going to be a Boolean, and this one's called jump for when we're jumping, and we're going to add another one for slide. So when we're jumping or when we're sliding. Okay, so let's grab the animations. I'm going to grab the slide animation. Let's do that one. That one's going to be quicker. Just move this. I always like to put this over here so it's out of the way. Okay, so the orange one is always the animation state that's going to start when the game starts. I thought we renamed this animation. Why is it called mixer mode? Oh, we didn't rename slide. It makes so much sense. There we go. So I'm going to put slide in here, and I'm going to make a connection between locomotion, because I only want to be able to slide when we're moving, so that's why it's connected there. And over here, we're going to turn off has exit time. We're going to add a condition, and we're going to say if we are sliding is true. We're going to have the one going back. We're going to turn off has exit time. And we're going to say if sliding is false. So there we go. Our sliding is set up connected to our locomotion. I want to create a new entry here. Let's call this one jump. And we're going to connect this to the locomotion. So make transition. This one again, turn off has exit time. And this one has to say, are we jumping? This one here is going to ask whether we are false. So true will take us to jump, false will take us back to the locomotion state. So the reason I'm using a blend tree is because I'm going to have two different types of jumps. So I'm going to double click and go in here. We're using the forward movement to control the blend tree. We're going to add two states. The one is going to be your standard jump. The other one is going to be our jump forward. So what that means is if we're just jumping while there's no movement from the input, we're going to jump like that. But if we're running forward, I added the wrong animation, jump forward. I think we're going to have that animation. So based on whether we're standing still or we're jumping forward, we will be able to play the appropriate animation based on whether we're standing still or running forward. There we go. So for now, this is what the... Sorry, let's just do this so it doesn't get too messy. There we go. So this is what the blend tree and the animator look for now. And this will be enough for the time being because we have one accommodated for the jump and the slide. And when we're all running, we're just going to go back into the locomotion state. So that is all that we want to do. So that's it. That is the animator. That is the animations. I hope this video wasn't too long. Hope it made sense. Once you've installed Bolt, you can pretty much delete this install Bolt section over there. Just takes up space in your project that you don't need. So I normally delete that afterwards. So you can keep it there if you'd like. That is up to you. And that's it. Animator done. And the next video, we're going to go into actually implementing this, making the character move. So just a recap, we set up a empty capsule collider with the origins at the feet and the collider goes up. We made it 1.8 meters height and 0.9 in the center offset so that it is the half of the height. The Y offset always needs to be half of the height. We added a model to that. We parented the model and we parented the camera to that standard empty controller, just so that we can have everything that we need. Now you'll see that no materials, no textures, it's not working. So we're going to use this and we're going to say use external legacy. We're going to click apply and we're just going to allow the materials to be brought into here along with the textures so that the model is correctly set up, because they're embedded into the thing and it doesn't always come through. Okay, so once we do that, we kind of get all of these weird folders inside the model, the textures and the materials. So we're just going to grab these and move them out. I'm going to rename this one to textures, and that one is already named materials. That's it. So now we have a completely textured model. We have the folder with the materials, we have the folder with the model itself, and we have a folder with the textures itself. There we go. Okay, so see you in the next video. I hope this was helpful. In the next video, we're going to get movement and jumping in place, and then we'll move from there. Thank you so much, guys, and till we see each other again, be safe.